Now, from Wish TV, your local news source, this is All Indiana Politics.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of All Indiana Politics. The fight over drawing Indiana's new election districts is about to hit full swing. The U.S. Census Bureau now says it will have redistricting data for Indiana and other states on Thursday. It's more than 5 months late. Part of the census problems are with the COVID-19 pandemic. Indiana's population just under 6.8 million. We've known that since April. What we'll learn this week is a breakdown by race, ethnicity, and location. It's the information that state lawmakers will use to redraw Indiana's 9 congressional, 100 state house, and 50 state senate districts. And let's welcome in Representative Tim Wesco, the chairman of the House Elections and Appointment Committee. Sir, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be on. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, sure. So you've scheduled a series of meetings around the state to discuss redistricting. What do you hope to learn from these?
We're looking for public input regarding the principles that they'd like to see in place and the priorities of those principles, as well as specifics in relationship to their preferences for where the district lines are for their congressional districts and also for their legislative districts. As we prepare to receive the data from the U.S. Census Bureau on August 16th, and then to see that data properly formatted, we would like that public input as soon as possible so that we can start to proceed with that.
Do you have an idea of what the maps are already going to look like?
No, we don't. We do not have the final data. There's been some preliminary data, so we have some general ideas of where districts are going to need to contract in their boundaries and where districts are going to need to expand. But beyond just the general data, we do not have the specific data yet.
This is often associated with partisan politics. Do you have a way of combating that?
Well, part of that is this public process of seeking the public input, seeking people's input from across the state. We want to give people in each congressional district the opportunity to have a city in their local congressional district versus coming to Indianapolis so that they can provide input. And it's going to be a bipartisan hearing where Republicans and Democrats alike are hearing the public's input and seeking to implement that.
So there's a lot of speculation nationally that the first Indiana district up in the northwestern section of the state could flip. And that could be a problem politically for Democrats. Have you heard this speculation? And if so, what's your response?
No, I haven't heard that speculation.
A lot of people are saying that it is partisan politics if that does happen.
I haven't heard the speculation. I haven't really looked closely at even the preliminary data for out there. So clearly there are other people that are paying a lot closer attention to this than I am.
So you mentioned before about the census not being back yet. Has that made this process a little bit more difficult?
Yes, it has. It has definitely extended it out much longer than we anticipated. Frankly, I feel like we're already pushing the envelope as far as our requirements. Indiana is required every 10 years to redraw the district lines. For the House, all 100 members are up for re-election every 2 years. And so that filing period will begin this coming January, February. So right now, we're just a few months out from when the filing for office happens and people don't even know what district they're going to be in yet.
Right.
So this has created a serious concern for us. And we want to move quickly when the data is released to accomplish this task that we are constitutionally and statutorily required to do.
You're getting ready to unveil mapping software. Explain to the folks at home what that is and how that can be useful to them.
So we want to give everyone in the state the opportunity to be able to take the same data, the same software that our staff here in the State House has, and draw maps and bring those maps and bring their suggestions specifically to the legislature. So those are going to be available across the state at Ivy Tech campuses. And we're excited about providing that opportunity to the public in order to give them the opportunity to have even further input into the process.
Are you concerned that if things do change, and again, I appreciate you taking some time, if things do change, that the changes could then be taken up in court?
You know, we just have to do the best that we can in following our constitutional and statutory requirements, and that's all we can do.
We'll leave it there. Representative Tim Wesco, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Now let's welcome in Mila Eldridge, the Marion County Clerk and Vice Chair of the Indiana Democratic Party. Mila, good to see you again. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So do you believe the Democrats are going to get a fair shake here?
Uh, I surely hope so. However, I will say this, that let's just talk about elections a little bit, okay? You know,
Mhm.
Democrats want elections to be free, fair, and easy, and just want voters to have access to the ballot box. Elections are free when the state and federal legislative districts are not drawn to benefit of one party after completing, the U.S. Census. So I just think that citizens um, deserve to have more competitive elections, and it seems that if the districts are drawn by partisanship, that is harming and alarming for the future of Hoosier families across the state. And so the reality of it is that we saw from the 2011 um, lines that was drawn that it wasn't good for Hoosier families across the state. The districts, they just were not in our favor.
That said, these hearings are going to take place without the data that you mentioned coming back from the U.S. Census at this point. Your thoughts on that?
Uh, I think that we could have offered more time um, and scheduled more uh, opportunities for Hoosiers across the state to participate and have input on the redistricting for the state. However, I think the time is limited, only allowing for 2 days to offer Hoosiers to participate or input or have input on uh, redistricting.
This is a political process. How do you take or remove politics out of it?
I don't think that we can remove politics out of it, but I do think that it's important that we hold those that are drawing the lines for redistricting accountable. I think it's important that we stand up against gerrymandering, and now is the time. Now is the time for Hoosiers and for the state of Indiana to do what's right.
So we asked Representative Wesco the other day about redistricting, possibly redistricting up in the northwestern part of the state or the northern part of the state, congressional district, and I want to get this right, congressional district, the first congressional district, to help maybe turn the seat red. If that happens, do you foresee this maybe going to court?
Uh, if there is any signs of gerrymandering or anything that is illegal in regard to how the districts are drawn this time, it is possible that there will be outside organizations that would challenge the maps if they are drawn in a partisan effort. Uh, I just know that we saw again from 2011 that the districts were not drawn in favor of all Hoosiers. They were partisan. And again, in order for Hoosiers or voters to have a fair shake at this thing, it's like I said, free, fair, and easy elections is what Democrats want. And gerrymandering and drawing partisan lines for districts that are in favor of a single party is just not good democracy.
Yeah, one more question before I let you go. What do you hope comes out of this?
I hope that we can come together and draw maps that are easy and fair for all Hoosiers, and that we make sure that we're using the census data that we got from this past census, and just making sure that, like I said, that all voters and all Hoosiers have the right to vote, and that it's not gerrymandering and it's not in the favor of one party.
Okay, we'll see what happens, Mila Eldridge. Always good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
And to remind you about the national debate, 6 states will gain seats in the U.S. House. Texas will actually pick up 2. 7 states will lose seats, including heavily Democratic areas like California, Illinois, and New York. Democrats currently have an 8-seat advantage in the House. 3 seats are vacant at the moment. Coming up, the Indiana mayor under fire for his comments about people who refuse to get the COVID-19 vaccine and what he has to say now about his crude remarks in public. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics. An Indiana mayor has found himself in the center of criticism for his comments about community members who refuse to get the COVID-19 vaccine. Now he's saying he regrets his words, but not the sentiment. Demi Johnson explains.
I lost my temper at a council meeting here recently, and I referenced them as unvaccinated.
It's perhaps one of the most polarizing topics in communities across the country, and people's decision to not get vaccinated has pushed some local leaders to the limit. West Lafayette Mayor John Dennis says he knows he could have used wiser words, but bottom line, he's tired.
The individual who says, I'm going to stand up against any kind of vaccination process is basically acknowledging that it isn't the collective that he's thinking about, it's the individual. And I found that to be just unfortunate and reacted accordingly.
In a recent interview, Wish TV medical expert and former Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams addressed that very topic. We didn't ask him about this specific situation, but here's what he had to say.
First of all, I want to say it's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel tired. And quite frankly, we all, both the public health leaders and the community, wanted this to be over, hoped that it would be over, but we have to face the facts that we're going to be living with this virus for a while. So we've got to be honest with people, and I think there's nothing people can't handle if you're honest with them.
Dennis says his actions are not without consequence.
I've been told that I would never get reelected to public office again. I've been told by many people that they hope that I get the virus and get extremely sick and possibly expire from it. I've been told that I'm a dictator. You name it. I've been called that in the past couple days.
The Republican mayor says he's willing to take it for an issue, in his words, that is not political, but just plain human.
You know, as I did last year, having a mask mandate, which was extremely unpopular, I did that with the understanding it was in the best interest of our community. And now standing by the need to get people vaccinated to the point of losing my temper in public. I stand by that too, because it's that important to me, and it's that important to this community, and it's that important to the state of Indiana.
I'm Demi Johnson for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
Take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
And welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome back Republican Whitley Yates and Democrat Laura Beck. Good to see you both. Whitley, we start with you today. Can Republicans play fair in redistricting here in Indiana?
Absolutely. I think Republicans are leading a fair and transparent process. I think our maps were drawn fairly before, and I think that they will continue to do so. I'm against this whole idea or thought that we're gerrymandering districts in order for us to stay in places and positions of power, when the truth is we're just putting up candidates that people believe in, that they want to vote for. And so when you're looking at the maps and then you're looking at the elections that we've won, the countywide offices, as well as the mayoral offices, those areas aren't gerrymandered at all. And you're seeing us consistently winning more and more. And so we're just putting up candidates that people like and can identify with and that people believe in. And so I think we're going to continue on this process when it comes to redistricting to do what's best for Hoosiers.
Laura, your response?
Well, I think if we had an independent bipartisan redistricting commission in place, I think we would see, especially on the legislative side, legislative districts that much greater reflected the makeup of our state. So a smart person who's much smarter than me once said, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I think we're seeing that with this redistricting, these hearings and things like that. They don't necessarily feel as if they're being taken taken terribly seriously. I think when you're going around, you're soliciting public input in a very crunched period of time before you even get census data in, it seems to me like a little bit of an exercise in futility. And I don't want to call it a sham, but it doesn't necessarily feel terribly sincere as part of the process.
Are Democrats resigned to losing ground here, Laura?
I don't think we are at all. I think we are, you're seeing a lot more people coming out, I think, to these hearings than perhaps you saw at least 10 years ago. For those of us who've been around over the years, it does sometimes not get a ton of attention. And so I do think you're seeing it in this way. I think the Democrats are certainly being very assertive in educating the public about the challenges in not having fair districts and how that reflects in statewide policy. So I think you're seeing that come together. But for those of us who've been around for a while, this is not necessarily a surprise that it's being done this way.
Whitley, do you think Republicans are going to pick up seats?
I actually do think that we're going to pick up seats. I think that there's a trend of people moving out of Democratic-led cities. I mean, we're seeing it in Illinois, definitely the Republic of California, where I used to live. You're seeing people retreat because of the lack of leadership. And so I think that their fear is going to be validated and substantiated. And so I think it's interesting that when they had power, they didn't need to do these things. But now that we have the majority, all of a sudden now there's all of these issues and problems. I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and they need to just put their seatbelts on and get ready, because we're going to be doing what's best for Hoosiers, as we have been for the past 16 years.
One more question in regards to this before we move on. Yes or no to both of you. Do these new maps wind up in court like in some other states, Laura?
I don't know. It's just going to depend on how egregious and the level of power grabbing that will go on. I think that's what it's going to do. And I think if there are any kind of lawsuits or any kind of challenges, it's going to be because they are, again, potentially egregious.
Whitley?
I don't think so at all. I mean, I think the Democrats, if they don't like what they're seeing, which apparently they're already prepped and primed to not like what's going to happen that hasn't happened yet. So I think that there are going to be tons of challenges, but I don't actually see a huge court battle happening at all.
Okay, we'll see what happens. We'll take a turn now to crime. Mayor Joe Hogsett set to lay out his budget for the next year, and he's playing heavily to what the city will do to stop the surge in violent crime. Whitley, the mayor says Indianapolis is essentially a safe city. Your response to that?
Okay, so my response to Mayor Hogsett saying the city is safe is that it's laughable. He's been a lackluster leader. He has not prepared us for this. Where words fail, policies pick up. He does not have a plan for any public safety besides throwing more money at it and not at the root causes. And so he's going to continue to politically placate us. He's going to tell us that it's safe when we are seeing people dying in the streets. We're seeing non-fatal homicides at an all-time high, and we're watching the effects of that, specifically in the Black community, in our families on a daily basis. And so until we have a leader in the mayor's office, until we have someone that actually has a plan that's backed by data, that addresses the root causes of violence, which, big shock, is poverty, we're going to have some of these same issues happening again and again. And I really...
Laura, your thoughts on his comments about the city being safe?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the mayor, in laying out his public safety plan and the public safety budget, is really showing the comprehensive effort that's behind it. And so what he is going to be introducing, and I don't have a crystal ball, basically I don't know exactly specifically what's in his speech, but what he previewed for everyone is the fact that they're putting some money behind this because in years before, there wasn't any money to put behind it without raising taxes, and a lot of folks don't want that. So you're seeing a lot of positive things come online. You're going to see the Criminal Justice Center opening, and that's going to be a very holistic approach. You're seeing the city taking away illegal guns from people. Okay. You're seeing a more critical intervention with mental health. And frankly, Mayor Hogsett has made investing in our communities, investing in education, and dealing with poverty really a major centerpiece of his administration. Okay. So I think we're going to see some improvement.
We'll leave it there. Ladies, thank you very much. Good to see you as always.
Thanks.
We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us for another edition of All Indiana Politics on this Sunday. A reminder about our City in Crisis Town Hall special. Wish TV gathering the city's top leaders and community groups across the city for a town hall meeting. We'll address the rise in crime, the impact on our mental health, and look for solutions. Join us for City in Crisis Thursday at 6 o'clock live here on Wish TV and wishtv.com. We'll see you Thursday. Have a great rest of your weekend.